Welcome to video 0.1 for a review and or introduction to conversions, depending on where you are in the learning process. Adapt, fast forward, skip, review any parts of this video that you need in order to better understand conversions as a skill that will be very necessary for our work with mole, stoichiometry, solutions, and many other components within IB chemistry. I consider conversions to be a 5-step process. This is the way that I learned it. This is the way that I've taught it, and it's not necessarily the best method for every student. I want you to use the method that works for you. However, I've had a number of students tell me over the years that this method is very simple, and they get to college and their professor tries to teach them a different method, and this one makes sense to them, and so they keep using it, and they teach their friends, and their friends are like, whoa, that's great. Well, I didn't come up with it. My high school chemistry teacher, Mr. Langhans, came up with it. Or maybe he borrowed it from somebody else. I don't know, but that's where I learned it. And I'm sharing it with you. Use it if you'd like. So I always start with what I'm given in the question. And I set up a table and I cancel the units with each conversion. And that's the key, is canceling the units. I use conversions and I finish with the unit that I need to answer the question. I'll do the math. Multiply the top, divide by the bottom. On your calculators with the TI, 83 plus, and so on, the best way to do that is hit enter at every step. Round your answer to the correct number of significant figures. We'll talk about significant figures at another time, but if you've got some background knowledge on that, this will make sense. Typical units for mass, we'll use grams. For distance, we use meters or centimeters. Volume, we often use liters or milliliters. For amount, we use moles. These conversions are not necessarily chemistry specific. They're just to teach us or refresh your memory on how to do conversions as a skill. So, let's get started. Aspirin tablets typically contain 0.325 grams of aspirin. How many pounds of aspirin is this? Yes, again, this is not a typical chemistry question. This is just to review conversions. So for conversions, I set up a table, and I start with what I know. What I know is 0.325 grams of aspirin. Writing the units may take a little bit extra time, but I find that it's really helpful if you ever are really struggling with conversions, is write out your units. The next step is to cancel our units with conversions as we go. And if I'm looking for conversions, again, not a common chemistry conversion in terms of the metric system, but 1 pound is 453.6 grams. So that's a conversion. Grams is on the top of this conversion, so that means 453.6 grams is 1 pound. The grams ends up on the bottom of this conversion because grams need to cancel. Pounds is on top, and that is what we're looking for. So we're going to do the math. We're going to take 0.325 and we're going to divide by 453.6. And we're going to get 0.000716, excuse me, not grams, 0.000716 pounds, or 7.16 times 10 to the negative 4th pounds. And there we have an answer. That's 3 significant figures. So I set up my conversion to cancel the units for grams, and I finished with pounds, and that's what the question requested. So this method of using a conversion table, it works as long as I cancel my units at every step. Divide by the bottom, multiply the top, and anywhere there's a 1, I just ignore it. Let's try another question. How many centimeters are in 3.9 times 10 to the 3rd kilometers? 3.9 times 10 to the 3rd kilometers. In terms of metric system, some of you may be able to do this conversion very easily because you grew up with the metric system. As an American, I did not grow up with the metric system, sadly. So I have to think about conversions. I know that 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters, so that cancels kilometers. And I know that 1 meter is 100 centimeters, so that cancels meters. And that leaves centimeters. which is what the question is asking for. So each step along the way, I did a conversion, and I canceled the units. So I multiply the top, divide by the bottom. So 3.9 times 10 to the third times 1,000 times 100, I get 390 million centimeters, or 3.9 times 10 to the 8th centimeters. There's my answer, 2 significant figures. So here, when I set up my conversions, I canceled the conversions as I went to finish with the conversion I needed. I multiplied the top. I ignored the ones. So 3.9 times 10 to the third times 1,000, hit enter on your calculator, times 100, hit enter. There you go. Here's a question for you. Do you know anybody who is approximately 550 million seconds old? Well, let's just start with what we know. 550 million seconds. And I know that 60 seconds are in 1 minute. So if I do the math, 550 million divided by 60, I get 9.2 million minutes. That doesn't really make much sense to me. So I say 60 minutes is 1 hour. If I think about conversions, the units for seconds have canceled, minutes canceled, now I have hours. So I divide by 60, I get 152,000 hours. That doesn't mean much to me, so I'm going to keep going. 24 hours is 1 day. So the hours cancel. So I divide by 24 and I get 6,000 days, which again doesn't mean much to me. So now I'll say 365 days is 1 year, so I divide by 365 and I get 17.4 years. So do you know anybody who is about 17 years old, almost 17 and a half years old? So when I did my conversions here, I just worried about putting the unit on the bottom to cancel at every step and moving forward with more conversions to get to a conversion that makes sense so that I could answer the question. Yes, I know people who are about 17 and a half years old probably. Here's another problem for us. You catch a Chinook salmon from Puget Sound that weighs 25.9 pounds. Convert the weight of the fish to ounces, grams, and kilograms. So let's start with the first conversion. 25.9 pounds. And I know as an American that 1 pound is 16 ounces. So one question you might have is, do I have to memorize these conversions? Luckily, the answer is no. These are conversions that I'm using just to teach you the skill of conversions as a method for solving problems. When you are working with the mole, there are conversions you need to memorize, such as 1,000 milliliters equals 1 liter, such as 1 mole is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Those are conversions you'll need to memorize, and we'll work with those enough that you probably will memorize them if you haven't already. So let's go back to the question. First question says, convert the weight of the fish into ounces. So that means if I take 25.9 and I multiply by 16, I get 414.4 ounces. There's my first answer. Now I want to convert ounces into grams. I don't actually have any conversion directly for ounces to grams. So I'm going to start a second conversion, 25.9 pounds. And I know that 1 pound is 453.6 grams. So if I take 25.9 and I multiply by 453.6, I get 11,748.24 grams. So that's 11,700 grams to 3 significant figures. To convert to kilograms, I need to divide by 1,000, so that's 11.7 kilograms. So now I've provided all 3 answers, ounces, grams, and kilograms. Now let's try one last problem. This one is going to be a bit more challenging. And it's going to show you a particular format or part of the method that is a bit more challenging, but also is really valuable to understand. What is the volume in inches cubed of a 1 gallon sample of milk? So I have 1 gallon of milk, and I need to convert to cubic inches. Well, I don't know that I have any conversions into cubic inches directly for volume. But I do know, so let's think about this. Can I get the liters? Yeah, I can. I know that 1 gallon, oops, sorry, that was a little bit sloppy writing. I know that 1 gallon is 3.7854 liters. And I know that 1 liter is 1,000 centimeters cubed. So I'm remembering here that centimeters cubed and milliliters are equal. And I know that, I know that 2.54 centimeters are equal to 1 inch. So if I cube the 2.54 centimeters and I cube the 1 inch, that will give me inches cubed. So if I think about conversions, gallons cancel, liters cancel. Because I cubed this value, centimeters cubed cancel and inches cubed cancel. But mathematically, I still need to cube the 2.54 and the 1 mathematically in order for the centimeters to be cubed here. So in terms of the math, I'm going to take 1 times 3.7854 for my first conversion, times 1,000 for the second conversion. Then I'm going to cube 2.54. It happens to be, let's write down that value, it happens to be 16.387 centimeters cubed. I'm going to divide that. I'm going to divide my previous answer by that number, and I end up with 230.99, which is 231 cubic inches. So mathematically, I took 1, because that was my starting number, times 3.7854 times 1,000. I cubed this number, and then this answer I divided by my answer to this. So I want to make sure that I explain that properly. I cube this, and then I divide my previous answer by this number. And I just ignore 1s. 1 cubed is still 1, so I'm ignoring all these 1s. And I got 231 inches cubed. If you ever need help with your calculator, let me know. I'm happy to help you with how to process your calculator with the keystrokes. The sequencing of your keystrokes on a calculator are really important for getting the right answer. Now, what might you do now? You might look at the problem-solving worksheet that's provided. Check your answers as you go. Complete the problems that are necessary to consolidate your learning. So don't tread water. Don't do problems just because. If you feel like you're really good at conversions, move on. Maybe do 1 or 2 problems and just to make sure you're good at conversions, and then move on. Don't tread water. This video is really intended as a review, if you need it, if it's helpful for you. All right, thank you for listening. Let me know if you have questions. Have a good day.